Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars. Well, I thought it was about time that I reviewed the Star Trek franchise. This is a franchise that I am really fond of. I have been for a long time. I got the love of Star Trek from my father, who passed away in the early 90s. He used to take me to the cinema to see the Star Trek films. So I've grown up on the films and the TV show. So I'm very fond of Star Trek. I wouldn't consider myself, a fanboy or anything like that, but I really do like Star Trek, and I've always loved that message of hope in Star Trek and things like that. It's like a hopeful science fiction future. So I do have this box set which has all the Star Trek films on it, apart from obviously the newest ones, but I do have them as well. So I'm going to review every single Star Trek film that I own, starting with the original ones, going on obviously to the next generation ones, and then the more recent ones. Now, the first film that was released, it was the 1979 film Star Trek, and it was simply called Star Trek The Motion Picture. Now, this is a film I don't have a lot of memories of going to the cinema to see it, but I did go to the cinema to see this. My dad took me to see this at the cinema, and this obviously came out at the time when science fiction was hugely popular again, thanks to Star Wars, and every studio was clamouring to put together a science fiction film. And this had been in the pipeline for a while. This film, they'd wanted to bring Star Trek back, and it was brought to the big screen. Now, this film over the years has had quite a bit of criticism, I suppose is the fairest way to say it, for its pacing and things like that. And I get all those arguments with this film when you do watch it, and I've just watched it last night to prepare for this review, and it's probably a few years since I've seen it. I think it's fair to say this one. And the most striking thing that hit me in the face about this film was its pacing. It's very slow, and because at the time it was gifted quite a big budget, they spent an awful lot of money on the effects and obviously the sets and things like that. So there are many shots in this film that just go on forever, and for that I mean the sequence where Kirk is going in the shuttle with Scotty to go back to the Enterprise. I mean, that sequence goes on forever. Yes, the musical score is beautiful. Yes, the effects are great, and that long sweeping shot of the Enterprise is beautiful and looks great, but it goes on forever. Again, the shot where they first enter the energy cloud, this thing that they're going to see to try and stop it reaching Earth. The first time they get in there, it goes on forever. The shot goes on forever. The shot where Spock puts his astronaut suit on, goes into the heart of the cloud, that shot goes on forever. There's so many, and it's almost the case of this film. The biggest problem with this film is it's like, look at me, look how beautiful I am, and they kind of lost a little bit of what Star Trek was all about because of that. And that's the huge thing that stood out to me with this film. So that's my major criticism of this film out of the way. Other than that, apart from the costumes, God, the uniforms were god awful. Thank God they changed them for Star Trek 2, because the uniforms just didn't work, I don't think. And I do remember reading that many of the cast members hated the uniforms and things like that in the first one. However, saying all that, in regards to my criticisms of the film, there's an awful lot here to celebrate in this film. I mean, imagine being a huge fan of Star Trek and then this coming back to the big screen. You would have been stupidly excited. I've got a vivid memory of my dad being really excited. I would have been too young to understand that. I mean, I was born in 72, it's come out in 79, so you do the maths. I was very young, and I probably was bored watching this in the cinema. Certainly after watching Star Wars. However, I think there's a lot that works in this film. I think that the chemistry again of the cast is on point straight away. You feel very familiar with these relationships straight away. The way they establish them is brilliant. The way they build up that friendship again between Kirk and Spock, and how he's so distant initially, and then that scene where he grabs his hand, Kirk, and says, this simple feeling, i.e. friendship, respect, whatever you want to call it, is beyond the cloud's comprehension. I thought all of that worked really well. There were some really... The story, I think, is one of the strongest in all of the Star Trek films. The fact that this, and it would have been very topical at the time as well, the fact that this probe, Voyager 6, was sent out by NASA to gather information and then bring it back and relay it back to Earth. Such a simple idea, but so effective. The fact that this thing has been gone hundreds of years and it's gathered so much information, it's become self-aware, and it comes back as this huge self-aware cloud stroke being. Incredibly fantastic idea. I really think it's such a great story idea. Yes, you could argue that the execution was it probably would have worked better actually as a Star Trek episode, like a 60-minute episode spread out over a movie. Maybe not so much, like I say, because of the pacing and things like that. They just stretched out the shot, stretched out the story to make it fit this. And maybe, I mean, Gene Roddenberry was you know, part of the writing team for this, so he was kind of used to writing 60-minute episodes or 45-minute episodes. So that was his mindset, really. So for him to put together this for a movie was probably not an easy thing to do at all. But I think there are many aspects of this film that do work. The effects still stand out. They are very good for its time. But like I say, its pacing, it critically slows the film down very much so. But there are aspects of this film that really work. I do enjoy the story. I enjoy the chemistry between the cast. There are some great scenes in the film, and it's not. Many people just completely dismiss this film. It's like, oh, it's one of those rubbish Star Trek films. It really isn't. It's actually a very well made film. Definitely deserves a little bit more respect than it gets. Yes, there are better ones in the series, of course, and we'll be coming on to that in Star Trek 2 and beyond. So I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. It's actually, I really quite enjoyed watching it again last night to prepare for this review. Like I say, it's been a while since I've seen it. I did enjoy it, but I did definitely completely agree with the fact that the pacing is all over the place on this one. So yeah, so I am going to try and post a Star Trek review about once a week, maybe on a Saturday. Maybe we'll call it Star Trek Saturday or Sci-Fi Saturday or something like that. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody, and I hope you enjoy these Star Trek reviews. I'm certainly looking forward to watching one of them a week to prepare for these reviews. So yeah, thanks for watching, and of course I'll see you back for more content on Screen Stars very soon.